Polkadot is exploding, and I think there's still some huge price potential for the DOT token coming up in this next stage of the cryptocurrency bull market. Now, if you've been around a while, you know that we've been talking about Polkadot on the channel for quite some time, and it was only a few days ago before the pump that I was comparing it with Cardano. And in this video, Polkadot won. It was a hands down Polkadot win. And so looking at yesterday's video as well, where would I put $1,000? Maybe you could have used some of these skills that I'll talk about in today's video to go through and plan yourself out how to spot some of these cryptos before they pump. But for today's video, I want to go into Polkadot, why this pump has happened, how we spotted it beforehand, and what to look out for in terms of the pumpamentals, the hopium that people will be driving into the market, especially YouTubers like myself. What you need to be aware of. So make sure you've hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, bell notification icon, so you can stick around and get your hopium free dose of cryptocurrency content. Let's dive in. Polkadot USDT. We got the pump. This is old news now. It is a few hours old, and in cryptocurrency, everyone wants the latest thing. So what is going to happen next? But more importantly, the way I see it is, how can you spot this before it happens? The guys in Patreon, which you can find a link to at the top of the video description, just click on that, go check out Patreon. I've talked about with this in Patreon, and also the TIA members, about understanding technical analysis, because the charts will always tell you the news before the news is announced. And we were looking at this being a stronger cryptocurrency. And you know from past experiences on the channel, if you've been around, we were looking at Sol getting in before everyone else saw Sol at $150, $200 buying the top, and now it's retreated. But looking at this, the main thing I was looking at here were higher lows. Now, this wasn't my stronger horse through July or August, because Solana was stronger at that point in time. But now that we've got some profits off Solana, maybe a few other different cryptos here and there, then we can start to throw it into these cryptos which are looking like they're about to run. And on the USD chart, we were getting higher lows all the way up, and then also breaking 50% levels, at the same time breaking swing tops. And so it just continued to add strength to strength for this market. Not only was the USD chart looking pretty strong, but the main chart I want to look at is the Bitcoin pair, and we'll look at that a little later on. But first, I want to go through why this happened. People are probably wondering, asking, how could we have known about this, or what the hell is going on? So the main bit of news is the Parachain Milestone is coming up at the moment. So it has been confirmed that the Polkadot leadership group subsequently voted to begin auctions for Parachain slots starting November 11th. So why is this important? Well, you need the DOT token in order to be a part of the auctions and start to vote for who you want to have a Parachain slot. And so that's why the DOT token is pretty important to this ecosystem. But not only that, it also has massive pumpamentals. What is pumpamentals? What are the pumpamental narratives? So this fantastic tweet by Secrets of Crypto that we often refer back to, it continues to give us insight into the market. And so the biggest, most pumpable narratives in crypto are NFTs, Polkadot ecosystem, parachains, of course, ETH killer, scaling, oracles, gaming, etc., etc. DeFi's in here. I would probably put NFTs in the middle and drop DeFi to the outer sections of this chart here. But at the moment, we're looking at Polkadot, and you would see it across anything, YouTube, Twitter. It's just Polkadot, 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 parachains. This is going to be the next biggest thing, blah, blah, blah. All right. The main thing here is what is pumpable, and to make profits, do not marry these things. Don't get sucked into the idea and the fantasy that this coin will make you rich forever. That's the biggest thing here. And that's probably mostly for new investors. Most of the stuff will likely dump 80, 90, 99%. Even the most beautiful cryptocurrencies like DOT. We recently just saw it fall from about $50 down to $10. So that's a solid 80% just within a bull market. Imagine when we hit a bear market, how far this thing could dump. But before we get to a bear market, we need to pump ourselves up a little more. We need to see some of these huge, insane price targets. Now, I'm just drawing on the Gann extension tools again, and we are looking at some of the fib levels. So the fib levels further up are around $80, $97, and about $127. That's with the current levels in mind. We're looking at the all-time low price to the previous all-time high, and then that extension all the way up gives us that 80, 100, 127. So around that 80, 100, 120. They're the first targets, and that's what I got my sight set on. And for a return, it's not too bad. You got 100% to the first one. You got about a 200% to the third major target up here. And of course, these are going to be resistance points as well. So that's the dose of hopium that we can expect potentially coming up. Now, I love to pump people up and make sure everyone's making their money and checking their charts and following their plans. But at the same time, this is your hopium-free home. This stuff will come to an end. But before it comes to an end, let's jump on board with the ride. So we've seen this. We've got the pumpables. We have all the narratives that are going on with the Polkadot ecosystem. We have the charting. We've seen where all this happens on the chart. And if you want to learn more about that, check out the Investor Accelerator Premium, where I go specifically into learning how to trade, finding out about Wyckoff analysis. So you've got your accumulation, distributions, your volume, your GAN analysis, swing trading. That sort of stuff is very important if you want to learn about this long term. So we've gone through that. We've got our pumpable narratives. Now, what else do we have to look out for? Well, of course, we don't want to marry the coins. We want to make sure that we are going to make some profits at the end of all of this. Donnie Big Bags is really, really bullish on the DOT ecosystem. So if you want to learn more about the DOT ecosystem, make sure to follow this account as well. So importantly, it was announced today that the DOT Kusama Bridge will be ready by the end of the year. So this is another bullish narrative coming together. Kusama often pumps, and it gets a lot of coverage while it is doing that. But at the same time, you want to be aware of what has already pumped and what needs to come back down for a rest. And like I said at the beginning of the video, it's something that I'll show at the end. It's specifically the Kusama chart, and we can see that compared to DOT. And that's what I was talking about with the guys, with the members, Patreon and the Investor Accelerator, is why one looks stronger than the other. So here is the DOTBTC chart, and then we'll compare these to Kusama. So you don't have to wait too long. I can hear you all in the background saying, just get on with it. Tell me what it is. Where are your timestamps? Yada, yada, yada. Okay, check it out. We're on DOTBTC. Here are the lows. On the way up, we got the peak just in September before we had that correction. Now, it's always important to check the DOT Bitcoin chart or the BTC pair for anything that you're looking at, because it can look pretty strong on the dollar chart. But if the BTC chart is not holding up and not supporting itself, then you might just get a lackluster grind up in those altcoins. And it's pretty common across YouTube, Twitter, everything like that. Find someone who looks at the BTC chart as well. And there are plenty of those guys, because most people just say, buy this thing, buy the dip. It's fantastic, and they're not looking at the BTC chart, and Bitcoin's going up, so everyone looks like a genius when Bitcoin's going up, because the USD chart will continue to go up as well, but they'll continue to lose ground against Bitcoin or just go sideways, so you're basically exposing yourself to a ton of risk. You came here to find out, how can you find that this is stronger? Well, I'm looking at the double bottom here on the GAN extension here, or the GAN retracement. We're looking at the major low to the major high. So in this smaller period here, we've bounced off that twice. Can I be wrong? Yes, I can definitely be wrong. I know I've pumped up my analysis here quite a lot, but I can definitely be wrong, because this has been short-term bullishness and buying at these levels like I have done over the last couple of days, and all the receipts are in the members group as well. You can see that on my posts at around this 58,000 to about 60,000, 61,000 against the DOTBTC chart. So we're up a day, fantastic. But a big thing here I'm noting is that we've broken through some highs. Like I said earlier, can I be wrong? Yes, I can definitely be wrong. I would be wrong when these lows are taken out. But of course, I'll have some stops in place and say, well, analysis was good for a shorter period of time than I was expecting, and I need to cover my ass and get some of my profits off the table, or get out break even, because I never want to let a profit run into a loss. That's a very common saying, and always remember that. Don't want to let these things run into a loss. Okay, so that's where I could be wrong. These levels are taken out at around that 56, 57,000 Satoshi level, but at the moment we're going good. Let's stick with the hopium and the positivity here. So DOTBTC, that's how I saw it here. Looking at the Bitcoin chart, was strong on the 50% levels of the GAN extension. This is a drawing tool that you have to learn how to implement. It's not just an indicator that you can click on. You have to learn how to draw that tool in there. USD, it was making higher and higher lows. It was above all its 50% levels. So they checked out. Two of those things checked out for me. And I liked that. That was pretty positive for me. And I thought these were going to go next. Maybe for a short period, maybe for a long period. We'll see. The other thing is the DOTETH chart. So is what I'm investing in going to go up against USD? Is it going to go up against Bitcoin? And is it going to go up against Ethereum? Well, Ethereum was slightly weaker. It was a lot weaker since the March highs, but DOT has started to make its grinding way up since July, and it's now starting to break some of these previous highs. Before, when I was looking at it, it was still at around these levels, but it was starting to put in some early breaks. So that's much higher risk, putting in the earlier breaks, but you got to risk it for the biscuit. Now, the biggest warning here is something like Kusama. Now, I think Kusama will do well, but it has been pumped up a lot. And as you can see from some of these tweets here, Donny Big Bags loves the Kusama. Everyone loves Kusama. It's a real thing out there that's being used. But I want to go to the charts because the charts tell me what the story is. And you can see that Kusama hasn't had as big of a move than what DOT has had. And Kusama on BTC is looking far, far weaker. It's breaking lows and it's not above its 50% level. And so this is looking weaker. On a bigger time frame, it does have some lows that it is holding. We could draw a line there. We could draw it back down to join up with these lows. But at the moment, it's weaker than DOT. It can come back, and if it does, it'll probably make more gains than DOT. But for the moment, it is looking weaker than DOT. So for me, these are trades. I'm not going to get married to them, so I want to make sure that they are working for me early on, and then I can come back and maybe throw some of the profits into something that has been slower for the time being, and then I can make those profits later on. Pretty much the whole strategy that I've done on the channel, if you've been following, which is another good reason to subscribe and like the content up so that you can see it. That's the strategy that I've been looking at here, is to buy stuff which is moving, like Solana as an example. I'll go back to that because that's something that I talked about on the channel. Take some of those gains off and then go and throw it into something else which isn't moving, and not just the stuff where people continue to pump up and it doesn't move. That's not what you want. You want to find it on the chart. Okay, so Kusama BTC is still a little slow. Kusama USD, on the other hand, looks okay. So this is where the two aren't marrying up at the moment, but I do think it'll come back during this next cycle and everyone's going to look like a genius again, because, I mean, that's what happens in a bull market. The real hard part is when the top comes in, and then after that point in time, when the bear market comes in, that is when things get really difficult, and I won't be buying every dip at that point. So if you want to know more about when to buy the dips, which are the juiciest dips to be buying, make sure you're subscribed. Check out Patreon and Premium down below, the Investor Accelerator. Links are right at the top there, easy for you to have a look at. And also follow me on Instagram and on Twitter, where I'll be posting about this stuff every single day. All right, guys, that is your dose of hopium with your current portfolio full of altcoins. I'll see you guys at the next video. Make sure you hit that like button. And until then, have more fun to get more done.